Good morning, CLC. Welcome to another wonderful Sunday. We are so happy to have you here and a part of our service today. I hope you are enjoying a nice little longer Labor Day weekend as we are. And I invite you now to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now, let me invite you to relax into this moment. Take a few deep breaths. Allow your body and your mind to just put all thoughts of the last week, of everything coming up aside, and be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing the idea is already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words, I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room this morning, but I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I am grateful for the good in all of your lives. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone who may be physically in the room or virtually on this broadcast with me this morning, and share in gratitude and confidence by saying, I am grateful for the good in all of your lives. Grateful for the good in your life.
Good morning, Creative Life, or y'all, or all y'all. Howdy, y'all. Welcome to a series on spiritual strategies. And with all the challenges in the world today, I thought I'd talk about the weather. You know, it's going to be cool next week, not as cool as they thought it was going to be here, but in Colorado, you heard in Colorado, the temperature is supposed to drop 60 degrees in 24 hours. Can you imagine that? And why I'm telling you this has to do with an image that jumped into mind today, because this is about lifestyles. It's about job, careers, and lifestyles. And you'll see what I mean by lifestyles when we get to that part. But I was thinking about a metaphor or an image. I like metaphors to teach this kind of abstract science as it can be sometimes. You need something practical that people can call to mind and say, well, life is like this, or the mind is like this, or the process is like this. And I direct this talk today especially to the people who are new or newish with us, learning about this thing called science of mind, or religious science, which is what I teach here, we teach here, to understand the terminology, to understand what it is we're trying to say and what it's not that we're trying to say. So an image came to mind, and then I thought, in the car on the way here, I thought, I wonder if I'd read that someplace, and so if I have, and this belongs to somebody else, this image, you have my apologies, and I'll give you credit next week if you let me know who you are, and watch 5 people say, that's mine, which is cool too, all right? Because none of this is proprietary. But the image is like this. The question that comes up very often is, how can everything be perfect when it looks a mess? And the image that came to mind was a snow globe. You know a snow globe? Can you picture a snow globe? It's a thing, and it's a globe of glass, and you shake it, and everything inside of it, little confetti pieces of white drift down, and there's usually a sleigh or some kind of winter scene glued to the bottom. What's going on in life, what's going on in the world, may look like the inside of a snow globe. Chaotic and random. But you hold the thing at arm's length, and it's a complete whole. And it's all contained within something. That something that's containing it all is what we're referring to when we talk about perfection. When we say everything is perfect, we mean it's contained within a system that is whole and unbroken. And within that perfection is imperfection and upset and trouble and dilemma and joy and wonder and beauty and peace, and all of these things represented by a little flake, and they're all floating around in there. And our job in this world is to find patterns in that distribution of stuff, to find patterns and meaning for ourselves. Not even to necessarily be able to explain it to everybody else and say, you see what's going on here? But to find a meaning for ourselves, to find a way to navigate through all of that. So that's the snow globe image. And how we navigate through this is by the use of mind, but it's a different style of use of mind than I was taught coming up and that you were taught coming up, which had to do with the education of the intellect only, or at least primarily. The top of your head was unscrewed and a bunch of information was poured in, and you came to understand certain things, and you could repeat these things. You could learn. And that's one of the definitions of a living thing, of life, is that it has the capacity to learn and therefore to evolve. So we were educated intellectually, but not so much emotionally. That was more practical. We got some exercise in that in terms of socializing with our peers and all, but there wasn't really a structure given to it, which metaphysics aims to give. And it says this, it says you have a conscious aspect of mind and you have a subconscious aspect of mind. And the conscious aspect of mind is where the intellect resides, and it's very useful. You're a really smart person. All people are. They have different ways of expressing different interests and different levels of education and expertise, but everybody is really smart at figuring stuff out. And everybody's also really passionate about being who they are. And the passion exists at the subconscious level, as does memory, as does our connection that is infinite and everlasting with one another. At the intellectual level, we say, well, people come and go. People live and die. At the subconscious, subjective level, we're all connected. We're connected to all nature. We're connected to all life everywhere. At the subconscious level is where the work is done to find meaning and purpose and passion in life. And because it's subconscious, it's subjective to the intellect. It's subjective to the conscious. Which means we can make stuff up and have it become a truth for us, have it become a law for us, without knowing that we've done that, and thinking that we're in the presence of a pre-existing law that applies to everybody, when in fact it's just our own story. And I was telling Danielle right before the talk, I read one of the New Thought teachers, I think it was Robert Bitzer, used an image, and he wrote a whole essay on this, and he said, walking down a mountain trail, you see a shrub and think it's a bear. And your whole experience changes, doesn't it? Your whole experience of that hike, that day, even your metabolism, right? Your blood pressure, your what is it? Your amygdala, the flight or fight response mechanism in the brain, you know, all of this flares up. And it's a shrub. And it doesn't matter that it's a shrub. It matters that you think it's a bear in terms of your experience. Maybe the person next to, here I am giving his essay, but the person next to you says that's just a shrub. And it takes a while for your heart rate and everything to calm down you. But they didn't have the same experience as you did. See, we make up our minds as to how things are, and this is what's meant by making up your mind. It's not just an intellectual exercise. It's an emotional one as well. You take thought, rapid feeling, you make up your mind how a certain thing is, and that becomes your mental equivalent. Remember that term. That's a favorite of Ernest Holmes, your mental equivalent. We have mental equivalents for everything. I have to be careful with my gestures to not hit the microphone as I did last week, and I watched headphones do like in a cartoon, you know, wow. The mental equivalent of a thing. So I was thinking about rain. We've had some rain lately. And that's wonderful. Unless to you it isn't. Everybody has their own mental equivalent about rain. Do you like rain? Do you enjoy it? There are lots of songs and poems and things about rain, you know. And some people, it's really depressing to them to have rain. They have had bad experiences in rain. Other people find it romantic or delightful or something like this. So what's the truth about rain? The truth about rain is rain is. Rain happens. There's a science behind it. Rain happens. And everything else you could say to fill in the blank after rain is on you, is on me. We make it up. And then we get to live with that. And then we embody it, and it becomes what we used to call a tape. It becomes a loop, that runs, right? And all of a sudden it's raining, and you're kind of maybe a little sad, and you don't know why. And you check your life, you look at your life, all of the different areas of your life, and you say everything, it's fine, it's the same as it was yesterday. Why am I a little down? Because 20 years ago, I had an experience in the rain or something, and I took it on, and I made up this story, and I repeated it enough that it became a guiding mechanism in my life, and then I forgot that I had done that. Now imagine that you have these things running about everyone and everybody. You have them running about people, about life, work, kids, trust, confidence. Every area of your life, you have stories made up about things. We have the music on Sundays. I'm trying to get this out. Brian and Jeffrey and Melody and Kenzie and Peter and Mary Radspinner and Troy McConnell, all the musicians, I hope I haven't forgotten anyone, that we've had over these months here. They get up and perform a song, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about it until they do it. And by feel about it, I don't mean approve of it or think it's appropriate. I mean feel it. I don't know how I'm going to feel it because they do a lot of songs out of my past. They do some I've never heard, but many, especially this guy here, does a lot of songs out of my past. The summer of this, And all of a sudden you're there and you're feeling some things. And so I need to be conscious of that. I want to be conscious of that. And I want to be able to, at times, treat it like the snow globe and step back from it and say, it's perfect. It's perfect. And other times I want to step into it and let it just kind of shower over me. This is the use of mental equivalence. And this becomes the law of life. This becomes the law for you of how things are experienced. And so as we become conscious, and you hear this term a lot, consciousness, raising consciousness. Raising consciousness a lot of times sounds like real out there kind of woo-woo sort of stuff floating through the clouds. And it can be, but it also means being aware of your own interior process. That's raised consciousness of what it is that floats your boat, what it is that moves you around, what it is that causes you to feel a certain way or other. Which brings us to today about jobs and careers and lifestyles and spirit as these things. Now, I'm taking various spiritual strategies in no particular order. Why I put work and stuff first is because it's Labor Day weekend. So we're thinking about this and we're celebrating the people that do really hard work in our culture and the people, the first responders and the frontliners and the essential workers, which is a term you hadn't heard much until you did, earlier this year. There are people out there watching, and if not, around you, who are out of work, who want to work, and are having difficulty finding work. And there are people out there who are going to work under conditions and circumstances that they should not have to face in doing the work that they agreed to do. And then there are people like me who are very fortunate because I get to do what I love and I get to do it more or less uninterruptedly. It's changed, it's different, but I get to do what I do. And I don't take that for granted. And it's not because I had better thoughts or higher thoughts or something than somebody else who's doing something else or experiencing something else. And this is important to remember, because when you go into that way of thinking, you're right back in the ego mess of separation. When you think somehow I evaded, the trouble that everyone else has experienced. In that snow globe, let me tell you, some religious scientists might turn over in their grave at this, but I'll tell you, inside that snow globe, there is luck. There is luck. There is a margin of just plain luck. Meaning, I can't explain it, and you can't explain it, and I defy anybody to. But you do improve your luck. You do put yourself in a position of enhanced possibility by managing the mind very carefully, the intellect and the emotions working together, developing a mental equivalent. So I have some strategies, I have some suggestions for all of us about our work life in no particular order. One is, whatever you're doing, do the best you possibly can at it. Why? Doesn't that sound a little lame? What if they're not treating you right? What if the customer's not always right, the customer's just always first, right? But, why do the best you can? Let's revisit the subconscious mind for a moment. It loves actions better than opinions. It takes actions, it takes the stimulation of activity, and it applies it, and it makes a law out of it, it makes a principle out of it, or it makes it a chapter in a law, a thread in a law, So when you do the best you can do at whatever it is you're doing, if you're sweeping floors, and you think, I wasn't born to do this, I'm better than this, I want to be in leadership, I want to be a stakeholder in what's going on here. If you'll sweep those floors really well, one school of thought will tell you what will happen is somebody will come by and say, gosh, you sweep those floors well, why don't you come, the Horatio Alger kind of story, and they'll rescue you out of this and say, why don't you come be a leader, and here's an office with a desk. I'm telling you that from the subconscious level, you're sending in a message into universal law that I love what I do. And that's going to be your rescue. That's going to be your savior. I love what I do. And it will pluck you out of there, and it will maximize your capabilities in some finer way. When people complain about the work they're doing, I want to remind them, you have a right to complain, and you have a right to demand safety and respect in the work that you do. But that's what you tell others. What you tell yourself ought to be, I love what I do. I love what I do. When you see somebody else who is having an experience that you envy, I learned this from Reverend Ike. He used to say, that's for me. We want to go into, how did they deserve that? Look at them with that shiny new car or that wonderful life, as it appears to me to be. He says, look at that and say, that's for me. Why? It's not about them. It's about your use of inner process, your use of consciousness. And the subconscious mind picks up on this stuff and runs with it. And it will turn a job into a career. It will turn a job into a passion. You'll find things come out of nowhere that suddenly you like to do. I love to collect these stories. We don't have time in 100 weeks for me to tell you all the stories just from memory that I've collected of people who have literally stumbled across. And when I say literally, I mean literally. Everybody uses literally today, and they don't mean it, I mean literally. They've stumbled. They've like almost fallen over things that were there for them to do. One story, real quick, because I just read it the other day about Jimmy Page. Do you know who Jimmy Page is? Emily Elbert. Jimmy Page is a founding member of Led Zeppelin, and he was one of the top studio guitarists when he decided to throw in with some people and form a band called the Yardbirds, and then some of them turned into Led Zeppelin, and now you know who he is. And I remember when Emily Elbert was here, and she had just recently graduated from Berklee College of Music. He was their commencement speaker. And he came and did guitar workshops, and she lost her mind, as did all her classmates, of being in the presence of, arguably one of the greatest guitarists who ever lived. I bring up Jimmy Page because when he was a little kid, his family, they had a hard time making ends meet. Both of his parents worked. This is right after the end of the Second World War, and they moved from house to house, to try to find a better deal. And They moved into this one house, and it was unfurnished, you know, but against the wall was standing a guitar. Against the wall was standing a guitar. He was bored. He had nothing to do. He picked up the guitar. He started to play it. He started to learn. Eventually, they got a TV set, and he watched a show that had a guitarist on it, you know. And one thing led to another, and it took off from there. So you have experiences of things that occur to you out of nowhere, and they're coming to find you so that you can do a particular thing. You stumble over things, you just never know. I got one more story for you about this. In present day, in present time, that is, you may have read it, it's in the news. And it is this. There's a guy who's a woodworker in Ohio, and his neighbor, they have land, and his neighbor is a bird watcher. Well, squirrels were chasing off the birds. She complained to him about this, and he thought, I wonder if I can come up with a solution. He thought, what do you do to keep squirrels away from birds is you distract them. You give them, what are they after? They're after food. They're after nuts, really. And so you create an environment for them that's away from the birds. And so he created for them a squirrel bar, this woodworker. It's about 6 feet long. It's about 4 feet deep. It has a bar. It has little stools on it. And instead of draft beer, there are draft nuts. There are 6 or 7 different little, cylinders of nuts of different kinds. And the squirrels can sit there and suck the nuts out of these cylinders. It's brilliant, right? So he delivers it to his neighbor, and she hangs it up. It's got a couple of chains on it. It's about the size of like a small swing, you know. Sets it up over in a corner of her property. It works. All the squirrels beat a path to this thing. They leave the birds alone. She took a picture of it. She put it on the internet, which is how I found out about it. Well, everybody went crazy. And now he's making these things for everybody across the world. About $200 gets you a squirrel bar. It takes him about 5 hours to make. He makes $200 out, $500 is $40 an hour, less materials, you know, and he's got other things going on. But he's loving it, and he's already got more ideas for things that he could do. What he could create. Came out of nowhere. If you'd asked this man a year ago what he'd be doing today, this is you. This is me. You never know how it's all going to come together in some way. Which brings us to lifestyle, and what by that I mean, I was reading an interesting piece about prosperity, and it says instead of figuring out what you want to do or how you want to do it or where you're going to start or how you're going to wind up, picture the lifestyle that you wish to inhabit. How do you want to furnish your life, especially in the interior level? What are the colors, flavors, textures, and so forth of your life? What appeals to you? Don't worry if it clashes. Don't worry if somebody else wouldn't approve, or there's no name for it. It's not a genre or something that anyone's familiar with. Make it your own and inhabit that in your spiritual work. When we're in the middle of the snow globe and it's chaotic and it's all raining down, it's difficult sometimes to remember what to do. No one expects us to stand in there and say, oh, this is all perfect, when it all seems to be coming apart. But take time every day, as often as you possibly can, without neglecting the other things you need to do, to step back from all of that and look at the totality and look at the perfection and bring the sense of perfection back with you into the ordinary, into the daily work, into the daily life. And then watch it all begin to mean something. So the lifestyle image I want to present to you, it's going to be largely determined by your own preferences and your own enjoyment, your own rhythm in life. But imagine yourself this way, if you will. If you'd close your eyes for just a moment. And I will picture for you a beach. Picture a beach. Do you like beaches? Normally we say, well, go to your favorite place, but we don't have enough time really right now to translate a forest into a mountaintop into a this. So we'll go today to a beach, and you've got plenty of sunscreen on if you need sunscreen, and a hat and all of the things you need around you. Okay? Your beverage of choice and this, and you're in a beach chair, a lounge chair. I think that's what they're called. I'm not sure. But you know the thing where you can stretch your legs out and you're reclining. Maybe the hat's pulled down slightly over your eyes. And you feel the sun on your skin. And you feel the very light mist of the sea, all the water that's in the air from the waves that come crashing in. Are they crashing in, or are they just gently cascading up onto the beach? And then there's sort of a swoosh sound as they're sucked back out off the sand. You're wide awake for all of this. You're fully conscious for all of this. This is not a hypnotic experience. It's an experience of noticing. Notice that within your mind, your heart, there is a gorgeous silence where anxiety used to be. Notice that maybe for the first time in a long time, there is no sense of needing to be somewhere else, doing something else that's more important, more urgent than this. All there is here. And you're entitled to be here. This is your perfect place, right here on this beach. No one will disturb you. Nothing wants to disturb you. You are serving a high and holy purpose, being you on this beach. And when the time comes for you to sit up and stand up and gather up your belongings and fold your chair and your towel and your flip-flops on your feet, and you head back away from the beach into the rest of your life. When that time comes, you will know exactly when it is, and you will be complete, you will be unhurried, and you will carry with you that sense of freedom from anxiety, now to be filled, that inner space of gorgeous silence, to be filled with enthusiasm and inspiration and great love for all that comes next. Carrying this into the work that your hands do, carrying this into the vision that you hold of what you would do if you could do anything at all, because you can. And carrying this vision even into the practicalities of things like money, bills, because all of these things yield to one law, One God, one law, one element, one far-off divine event to which all creation moves. Yet that divine event is present right here, in this moment. In this moment. For this visioning together, for all that comes of it, I am so deeply grateful. I release it now into that vast, endless sea that is the subconscious, that is the subjective of each of us and all of us. I call it done, and so it is.
This is a song that I've never played in front of people before because I always tended to get choked up while I did it, and I wasn't sure I could get through it, but I feel like I'm ready for it. So it's called Poems, Prayers, and Promises. It's a John Denver song. Just a second. Tune. I've been lately thinking about my life's time, all the things I've done and how it's been. And I can't help believing in my own mind. I know I'm gonna hate to see the end. I've seen a lot of sunshine, I've slept out in the rain, I've spent a time or two all on my own. I've known my lady's pleasures, I've had myself some friends, and spent a night or two in my own home. I have to say it now, it's been a good life all in all. It's really fine to have the chance to hang around and lie here by the fire and watch the evening tire while all my friends and my old lady sit and pass the pipe around and talk of poems and prayers and promises and things that we believe in. How sweet it is to love someone, and how right it is to care, and how long it's been since yesterday. But what about tomorrow? And what about our dreams and all those memories we share? The days they pass so swiftly now, the nights are seldom long. Time around me whispers when it's cold. The changes somehow frighten me, but still I have to smile. It turns me on to think of growing old. And though my life's been good to me, there's so much left to do. So many things my mind has never known. I wanna take my family and take them sailing away and dance upon the mountains on the moon. I have to say it now, it's been a good life all in all. It's really fine to have the chance to hang around and lie there by the fire and watch the evening tire while all my friends and my old lady sit and pass the pipe around and talk of poems and prayers and promises and things that we believe in. How sweet it is to love someone, how right it is to care. How long it's been since yesterday, but what about tomorrow? And what about our dreams and all those memories we share?
Trying to lengthen my leash and not doing a very good job of it. All right, so I'm going to invite you. Well, I don't know what I was going to say, so never mind. I'm just going to trust that Spirit's going to know what I was going to say. It's Labor Day weekend. It is the weekend that traditionally we get together and we rest from working and we have big parties and barbecues and what have you. And time is a little different right now. So I'm going to tell you that you are not alone and that we have people available if you need to talk. Right after the service, Monty will be available for the we used to call it Power of 10, or we will call it Power of 10 again. So if you need that, please know that it is available. And as we move into this Labor Day holiday, whatever it looks like, it doesn't look like yesterday, and it won't look like tomorrow. It does look like today. And in that, know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. That love flows through each and every one of us. It is us. And as we move through this experience, that love is available as we are opening consciously to it. So I invite you into that consciousness. I invite you into that love. I invite you to open up and feel it flowing through you. And as it flows through you, know that it is flowing out into the world. And the way it looks is different, and different is good. So as we move through this holiday, I invite you to rest. There's been so much going on. Rest. Swim in that love for a brief period of time. And then know as you move out into the rest of your week, you carry that love with you. And as you carry that love with you, you spread that love out. So have a happy Labor Day. Have a restful Labor Day. And carry that sweet time with you from now into eternity. And I'm grateful to know this. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this team. I'm grateful for these amazing musicians. And I'm grateful especially for Reverend Jesse, for his willingness to guide us in this time where we have no idea what we're doing. But we figured it out. And I release my word knowing it is so, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
So it is.